Welcome to Hack the File. I'm Michael Lopez, and today we're gonna do some um, my thoughts on how to get a cybersecurity job after you graduate. Enjoy. All right. So I wanted to do this video. I saw a lot of videos out there on how to get into cybersecurity and how to get a cybersecurity job after you graduate. And how to get into cybersecurity is a different video. So that would probably be if you don't have any teaching or schooling or something like that, or if you do, they recommend certificates and certs and all this stuff, and and that's a different topic, right? What I'm talking about is how to get your first cybersecurity job after you already are interested in the field. You got your certs, or you've went to school or whatnot, right? When you've already got an interest in it. And I'm going to give you my advice, right? So I recently graduated in December of 2022, right? And I got a job. I started looking for a job, I would say, in November, right? So before I graduated. So in November, I was already getting my resume together, and I recommend doing that. Okay. So I was already getting my resume together and my references together. Your references are very important, because if you're getting a cybersecurity job, they're going to need references, right? Most likely you're going to get into a field of where you're going to need security, and they're going to have to check your references, right, for security purposes. So, okay, so before I get too crazy right now, I got this Word document open, right? And so how my brain works is I like to show what my ideas are, right? I like to show what my strategy is from step one to the end, to the final product of getting the job, right? And so you know now the reason why I want to make this video is because you're gonna if you're in school or you're studying cybersecurity and you watch YouTube, you're gonna see a lot of videos that say this or that, and and that's fine, right? And I'm one of those videos, right? But I, I am not against people making money. Okay, making money is great. So if you have a channel where you're saying, hey, I've got this course or something, and it's whatever ducats, to buy it, and I've put it together for you, and it'll help you get a job when you graduate. That's fine. That's basically what I'm going to do for you right now for free, though. Okay, and the only problem I have with that is that not the making money part, because if somebody is taking their time and getting you great resources and stuff like that, and you feel that that's a good way to go, then do it. That's awesome. I pay for stuff to learn, right, too, right? So I mean it might be a great deal, right? And it might be good for you, and even help you land a better job than you initially thought you could get, right? So I'm not opposed to that. Okay, it's awesome. Okay, people are making money on YouTube, and if you're gonna put money in their pocket and then it's gonna help you too, then that's fine. But I would like to say my personal opinion. It's not that hard. Okay, and it is it's not hard, but it takes thought, and you gotta organize, right? So that's why I'm gonna put this down on this Word document. I'm gonna write down the steps of what I did and the steps of what I think that you can benefit from my learning as I was trying to get a job, right? So like I said, okay, so the first thing is I'm gonna put it right here. I'm gonna put I'm just gonna put step one, right? Oh crap. I'm gonna put step one. Oh, hold on. So I don't want to take too long. After well, I don't even want to say after graduation. I would just say finding a cyber job, right? When ready, okay? And that's the that's the most important thing, is when you're ready, right? So let's do that. Let's make this a little bit bigger. And what you can do is, I'm not gonna make it daunting for you. And that's another thing, when I see these videos and they're saying, yeah, this is gonna be the best strategy you gotta do, to do, and buy my course and it'll help you. They make it seem like it's daunting, right? They make it seem like, oh man, it must be hard to pass these interviews, and you're gonna have to know the right questions, and you're gonna have to memorize all this stuff. And in a sense, you do, but I'm not gonna say. I'm gonna explain it to you. It's gonna make you feel better about finding a job right after graduation, because you have to remember, when you graduate, you have the world in your hands. Okay, people don't remember that. Don't realize that you have so much potential once you graduate, that you can do anything, right? And well, that's not realistic. It is realistic. If you want to go to Japan and do cybersecurity, you might have to learn Japanese for a couple of years, whatever, but you still have the potential, right, to do that, because you have the cybersecurity knowledge, and then, you just need to probably learn the language and whatnot. And then, or if you want to go to England or something, and work for an American chapter of that company or something, you can apply for all these positions, and you can get them now. But now the thing is how to get them, and I'm gonna help you put this into a more realistic view. Okay, so we're finding a job, right? So step one, okay, before you graduate, right, you need to make sure that you get your resume together, right? So get your resume together, right? That's the first thing. And this would be like, I would say, 2 months before you're gonna graduate. Don't wait till you graduate to look for a job. Don't wait till a month before you graduate. Like 2 months would be good, okay? And some people might say more, but I started looking in November. Okay, so November, October, November. Oh wait, I started looking in October, so like mid-October, so about a month and a half, right? October, November, and I graduated in December, middle of December. So I'd say 2 months, right? So get your resume together 2 months, right, before you graduate. And you would think that that's common sense, right? I told a lot of people, and they were like, I actually had a friend, okay, and I told him, I was like, I'm gonna apply as soon as I graduate. And he was like, hell no. You need to start applying 2 months or 3 months before you graduate. So I got that from someone else. I don't know all these answers. This is for all this stuff was experienced from other people. Okay, you don't learn anything by yourself. I mean, you do, but you learn the gold from other people, right? Because in your mind, you're like, well, I know what I'm talking about, but other people are going to tell you. So step one, 2 months, 2 months before you graduate. I'm just going to put that there. It could be 3 months if you want, but at 3 months, it's kind of harder, because when you're explaining that you graduate 3 months from now, a lot of them don't want to wait that long. Okay, they're like, maybe we'll, So 2 months is, it takes probably a month to even hire you, and then, or even go through the process and the interviews and stuff, and then finally at the end of that month, they're like, okay, so you're you're graduating next month. Okay, let's set you up for a second interview. And they'll hire you before you graduate. Okay, that's what they did to me. So I mean, they didn't do that to me, but I started interviewing before I graduated. So and a little tip for that is like, so like I said, so I'll go into a little bit of detail of this, of each one. Let's say you apply in October, okay, and you mid October or whatever, and you're planning on graduating in December. You apply and you put on there going to graduate on the application wherever in December, right? And if they call you, they will call you. So when they call you, or if they call you, depending on how many people you apply to, when you're in the interview, you act like you're just doing the interview normally. And when they ask you when something comes up when you're going to graduate, or what your plans are, then you can bring that in and say, oh, when I went, you never say if, you say when. So if I graduate, you say when. When I graduate in December, this is what my plans are. Or when I graduate in December, I'm planning on doing this, or whatever. So you bring that up in the interview. If they ask, if they don't ask, you just do a regular interview like you already graduated. Well, not like you already graduated, but you do the interview normally, right? Like the normal interview. Hey, answer the questions, go answer questions, and at the end you say, well, maybe if you want to slide it in there, they're already gonna know. So every time I did that, they bring that up. All right, I see you're graduating in December. Are you excited? Yeah, I'm excited. So I had 2 interviews before I graduated. 2 really, really good interviews. Were highly technical one for a pen testing position, and I didn't get that one. On that, and that's another thing. Uh, okay, so this one is I don't know, if you're applying for jobs, try to, and you haven't been on an interview in years, or you've never been on interviews for your field, try to do some interviews that of jobs that you really don't want that much, because you might not get it, because you're gonna be a rookie to your interviewing process. Okay, and then when you get through a couple of them, then you know what questions to ask, right? All right, so we'll get more into that here in a second. So, step 2. Once you did that, you got now get your references, right? Get your references together. So get your references together now, especially in cybersecurity, right? You need to have, and you need to like copy me while I'm writing this down, or write this down yourself, or do a screenshot of the video or whatever. But your references, if you're getting into cybersecurity, you're going to need the references, like colleagues and friends that have known you for at least 5 years. So think about that. This will save you a lot of time on gathering that in the last minute, when if you do get an offer, you do get a job eventually, the process will go a lot smoother if you have all this information and it's correct. Now, okay, so I had to give my friend's name, last name, his work phone number, or whatever he's gonna answer or she's gonna answer. I had a girl colleague, and I had a guy colleague, and then I had a guy manager, supervisor. So you need to have their phone numbers. You need to have their addresses. You need an address because you're gonna need those addresses maybe later if you get clearance or something, especially in cybersecurity. And just have those ready, at least 3, and write them down. Have their addresses, their phone numbers, the time is best to call them, and then ask those people. Well, you're gonna have to ask them first before you get all that, right? Because they're gonna have to give it to you. Ask them first if they're willing to be your reference. Okay, get your references together. That's gonna save you a lot of grief and time. Trust me, because I had the wrong number and they couldn't contact this guy, and they already offered me the position, and they were like, look, you have to get us his phone contact. We have to contact him, and you cannot replace this reference. So I have to use that reference. If I replace that reference, they would have dropped me from the process of hiring me, because it was they needed that. Once you submit it, that's it. Okay, so and then that's another thing. You make sure that those numbers and all that are correct. That's gonna save you a lot of grief. Get that together at the start. Ask your friends already. Hey, I'm looking for a job, and your colleagues. Make sure it's somebody like a mentor, or people you trust. Okay, that are gonna answer the phone and give you a good reference. So I mean, this seems like common sense, but this is a lot of people forget. I forgot, and I was scrambling at the last minute asking permissions, and it was terrible. You have to have this same reference, and I was like, dang, so I had to, I couldn't even get in contact with him. Finally got in contact with him, got the right number, and he was like, you do know I work for the government. I cannot answer my regular phone. You have to call my work phone during this time. So that's how I did it. So make sure that's all correct. Okay, so step 3. This is the most important part of trying to find a job in cybersecurity. Now, people are gonna say do your certifications, do your CompTIA. I did none of that. Okay, do your, I just took a lot. I got a degree in cybersecurity, so I did a lot of those classes already. And so, do this, do that, and that's how you're gonna get a job. And memorize this question, memorize this. Okay, the main things I would say to memorize is your okay. Well, let me back up. So before you memorize stuff, the key to getting a job is finding what you're not, what you're good at, or what you like to do in school or in your certs. Okay, so take your certs and all that, right? But what is the thing that you know a lot about that you really liked? Okay, that's the key. So let's say you were in school, and you in one of your classes, was risk management. Okay, and I'm gonna give you my example. And you liked risk management, and you took this class, and you were like, man, I really remember a lot about risk management. I remember a lot about frameworks. I remember a lot about NIST 1308. I don't know, whatever one. I had to write a NIST report on how I would use NIST if I was helping a small business. And you remember that, and you remember you did well on it. You got a good grade, a B or a C or an A or whatever, and you remember a lot about it, and you can actually speak on it with confidence and practicality. Like you do understand the subject. Okay, that's the main important thing about getting a cyber job. Okay, now when you're in school, or when you're learning, when you take your cert, your CompTIA, what is the main things that burned into your head that you absolutely understood it, you knew what you were doing, you liked it? Those are the things that you're going to want to bring up in an interview and shine on. Now, when you take my first interview I had was for a pen tester, right? I have a passion for pen testing. I love it, right? But I did not have a lot of knowledge, and I wasn't too confident on most of the stuff. I studied for that interview. I applied for it thinking that, here, let me give it a shot. I'm going to study for it all month. because they give me like a month to prepare for it, and I prepared for it, and I got ready and all that stuff, and I had the knowledge, and I had the whatever. And when I took when I did the interview, I think I did about 50% grade. Okay, I knew 50% of the questions. They threw some stuff in there that I wasn't prepared for, but it was when I took it. I mean, when I answered some of the questions, I kind of forgot, in command lines. I forgot some command lines. And what's funny is if I was actually doing that a lot practically, I would have it on the tip of my tongue, right? And so I didn't get that job because I didn't shine, right? In the interview, I didn't shine. I didn't have confidence in it wasn't my number one topic. It was something that I figured, I would love to be a pen tester, and I studied for it, but it wasn't something that I picked up really well. It wasn't something that I was like, man, I really like this. And because I do like pen testing, but I didn't really like it, right? And I understood it, but I didn't really understand it a lot. So it was something that, I didn't get the job, right? And so imagine if somebody that picks up pen testing and shines in pen testing, and it's like, man, yeah, and their person is confident and all that, they're going to get that job over me, because they're going to get in that interview and they're going to shine. And then somebody's going to go, man, that's the one, get him. He knows what he's talking about. She knows what she's talking about. He knows, she, doesn't matter. They, them, whatever. So let's give them the job, right? So they're going to get it over you. Person that's shining, like Michael Jordan in a slam dunk contest. You know what I'm saying? All the angels are on the side of that person. They're gonna get the job. That's what's gonna happen, right? Because it's between somebody that doesn't shine and somebody that shines. Somebody that shines is gonna get it. Okay, so now that being said, I did another interview. I did a bunch of interviews. I did about 4 or 5, and I got progressively better in each interview. Okay. So I got progressively better. And when I finally hit the interview that was like perfect, right? I applied for this position. When I first seen it, I said, okay, I could do this job. It was in like risk management and framework knowledge and stuff like that, right? Framework, policies and procedures, and doing risk assessments and stuff like that, right? So it was something that I thought, okay, I could do this, because I know all this stuff. Like, I shined in that in those classes. It wasn't necessarily something at the time that I thought, this is my first pick for a job, because everybody wants the more exciting stuff, pen testing, digital forensics or something like that. Something a little more interesting and exciting. And some people go, well, policies and procedures and frameworks and all that stuff, it's not exciting. But I understood it. I think more than any other subject, and I got the highest grades in that class, right, in my risk management class. And so it was risk management, and then it was all kind of other class. Anyways, but so I knew my stuff. Okay, so when I went into that interview, and I was interviewing, every single question they asked me had a relevant and relevant answer, and an excellent answer, I would say, right? I don't know, I would ask them, and they would probably tell you, hey, you did it right, but no, because I felt like I was Michael Jordan in a championship game. Every question they asked me, I was answering it just smoothly. I knew the answers. I knew what I would do in this situation if I was, and then they said, and then that's another thing. Remember your projects if you're in school. Okay, if you're not in school and you took your certs or whatever, remember the things that you did, right? So I remember that I did a NIST project where we did a mock NIST comparison framework, and that's basically what they do. So a lot of companies, they take these NIST frameworks and they use them as templates, right? So so I remember I did something like that in my school, right? And remember your projects, remember your knowledge that you're passionate about, right? And don't get daunted when you do other interviews and none of the questions that you practice for are asked, and they're asking you just random crap that makes no sense. And don't get daunted. Hold on to the stuff that you understood in school. Okay, and that's my advice, right? It's not hard. So then so in that interview, I did great, man. I came out of that, and when I left that interview, and it was long. Another thing is try to get them talking, get them interested, and go over your time if you can. Because if you go over their time, then that means that, hey, they liked you, right? And I heard that from. It was funny because I heard that. Okay, this is a quick little story. Before I went into this interview, I was excited. I was like, okay, I hope I get this job. It pays a lot, right? Because this one was like the highest paying of all the ones, even the pen tester that I interviewed for, right? So I was like, okay, I want this job. It just pays a lot, and it seems like a good place to be in the work, right? So I prepped before that, and I watched some videos on how to know if you're having a good interview. That I recommend doing that too. Okay, do that, because a lot of these people are putting on YouTube. They're telling you the truth. You're having a good interview if they're interested in hearing what you're saying when you answer, and they're not stopping you and going on to the next question. You're keeping them intrigued. Another one is if they're laughing. If you got somebody laughing and they're smiling and they're having a good time, that's another one. You're having a good interview. I had them all laughing, right? If you're going over your time. If you were supposed to stop at 2 and you're going over your time, you're having a good interview, because they're invested in you. They're actually thinking like, oh, this is the one, So so you're shining, okay? You're shining, and if you're shining and the other person ain't shining, it doesn't mean that they don't know their stuff and they're bad. It just means that maybe that was their first interview right out the gate and they weren't prepared. They haven't got as good as you are, and you've done about 3 of them, and you've memorized the questions that you didn't know, and you went and looked them up. That's another thing. So your first interview you get out of school, okay? And in this field, and you haven't been in this field, remember the questions that they ask you, because they're all going to ask you similar questions. They're going to ask you, what is the OSI model, right? Or what is network? Give me some about networking. What are your they're going to ask you all kinds of different stuff, right? So these are the basic questions you need to memorize, and you have to have clear, concise answers for them, right? So one of my interviews, I kind of panicked, but I got the right answer, but I sounded like too rugged when I said it, because I was coming out of my butt with it, right? But I had the right answer, but I didn't know how to answer. I didn't practice to answer a question with them. So I didn't get that job. After that, I went and I looked up the perfect answer to that question, and I made it into my own answer, right? And I made it smooth, so it sounded smooth, and I know what I'm saying. So I fixed that. There was a lot of questions in my 5 interviews before I got my last one, or my 6th one, that I had to perfect. Memorize those questions, right? As you're going through, remember those questions. And the reality is, you know those questions, you know them. You just don't know them right off the back when they're asking you, and you don't know them. You don't know how to reply smoothly, like you know what you're talking about. When you're in an interview, the more smooth and practiced you are, the better, right? You practice anything, you're gonna seem really good at it, right? You practice basketball, you practice baseball, you practice writing, handwriting. The more you practice, you're gonna look good, instead of rugged and all like, oh man, he sounded like he knew the question, but I don't know. He didn't seem like he was prepared, and so you got that's another thing, right? So step 3 would be um, step 3 would be getting knowing what you're good at, knowing what you know, right? What you know best. Oh man, that's a dictionary. No, I was kidding. So knowing what you know best, right? Um, that's plain and simple. You went to school, you were good in something, you had to have been good in something, okay? And you remember what it was, and you had a passion for it. It might not be your first choice of what you really want to do, and that's a different video. That's a different story. Then if I really wanted to be a pen tester with all my heart, then I would be practicing every day, not just for a month before I get on the interview, right? I would be practicing every day and every day and every day and every day, and get better and better and better and better. And actually, that pen test position that I didn't get, they told me, you did very well, but you didn't pass 80% of the questions. And so, but if you wanted to reapply in 3 months, reapply directly to this, and we will give you another chance. And I was like, okay, so. But you can't say, okay, I'm gonna put all my eggs in that basket. I mean, I needed a job, so I just kept applying, and I was like, all right, it's almost been 3 months again. But then I already got another job, so I already got a job. So, but if I wanted to, I would have, right? And that's a different story. But this video is how to get a job right out of college, or right after your certificates and stuff like that, or whatever whatever path you choose to get into cybersecurity. The bottom line is, know your stuff, okay? Know your stuff. That's it. When you're in the interview, and then practice your answers to your questions that you did not know in previous interviews. Because now, if you're lucky, you might get a job in your first interview, okay? I doubt it, okay? Because you're gonna be rusty, and especially if you've never been in the cybersecurity field. You've never interviewed in a cybersecurity interview. You're not gonna. You mean unless you're extremely well at doing that, where you prep for a month and then you go on an interview and you knock stuff out of the park, which you might be, then that's great. But usually, you're not. Okay, you're gonna be rusty. You're not gonna. On so many levels, you're not gonna know half of the questions, because you're gonna prepare for that interview off of the job description, and you're gonna go through all that stuff in the job description, try to memorize everything in a week before you get that job. When they call you back, if you're lucky, a week, right? A couple days usually. When can you interview? Well, I can interview on Friday. You're gonna want to interview as soon as you can. You want the job. So yeah, in 2 days you're not gonna remember everything that they do. And another thing is, you're going in blind. Yes. So the best thing, so you're gonna have to learn from each interview that you get. Learn the questions that you didn't know, learn from those and learn those answers, okay? And learn how to answer them smoothly, okay? Um, that's another thing, right? So know what you know best. I even do like step 4, right? And we'll say learn from other interviews the right answers to questions asked and smoothly, right? Oh man, I can't spell for crap. Anyways, I can't spell, can't type. All right, so what that means is, yeah. So each interview you do, learn from it. Learn as much as you can from each one, even though you don't get it. Okay, if you land the first one, you didn't even need to watch this video, because somebody like that is just a badass. But even if you're a badass, you might not get that first one, especially new in the field. Learn how to answer them smoothly. What I mean by that is how to answer them where you sound intelligent, you sound like you know what you're saying, and you didn't. And another thing is, make it seem like you did not, like you've always known this, right? Like you didn't have to go through the process of answering it ruggedly, even though you probably most likely answered it somewhat correct the first time you were asked, but it didn't come out like you knew what you were talking about. By the time you get that, by the time you take that interview where you have it down smoothly enough, you're gonna answer that question like you knew that, like you knew that answer all along, right? And they don't know, you're interviewing and they just go, oh, he answered that perfectly, like smoothly, and they write down notes. Right answer, didn't take time to think about it, he knew it. But in reality, you've been asked that question 4 or 5 times already, so you know how to answer it to the best of your ability. Now you got to show them your true ability, right? Your true skill, your true style, right? And so that's basically what is this? Why is this not showing right here? Well, anyways, so yeah, so that's my advice on that. Okay, so now step 4, right? I think that's about it. Okay, so in the reality of all this, okay, you're getting into cybersecurity. Okay, I don't know what degree you have. You might have an IT degree, okay, where you're focusing on networks and this and that and everything, right? And you probably never took any kind of framework class. You never took any kind of pen testing class, right? Because that's not your degree. But a lot of people in IT become cybersecurity professionals. Okay, so why is that, right? Because they know their stuff. They know their technical stuff. They know all their stuff. So it doesn't matter, I don't think, what you're learning. Okay, it matters what you learn and what you remember and what you know with confidence. What, right? And then that's the field you should get into, right? So when I was applying for this position, I thought, okay, I do know a lot about risk management and frameworks and stuff, and I did a lot of work in it. So I mean, this stuff is a no-brainer to me, and I think I can actually do this job with not a lot of what do you call that, learning curve, with not a big learning curve, right? And so when I got into programming, okay, I was an electrical engineering technician, and I wanted to get into programming. That was a huge learning curve, man. That was like the worst learning curve that I have ever had, because transitioning from technical hands-on wiring, designing, small circuits, big systems, electrical components and electrical theory and all that stuff, from going from that to programming was a big curve, because Programming is different. Okay, programming, it requires a lot of you have to know how to read code. You have to know what all your methods and stuff. You have to understand how the language works, and then you got to understand a lot of stuff, and then you got to learn how to code, right? Not just read code. You got to learn how to code. Like, you got to learn how to make it work. You got to learn how, like, the right way of coding, and so it was a big learning curve for me. Something from what you're learning in school or what your certificates have taught you. If you're applying for a job that doesn't have a huge learning curve, I think that's the best way to go, right? And um, so and so you know it's not that hard to get a cybersecurity job, right? Especially if you're passionate or your stuff, right? And I wanted to look at this, and I want to look at, like, the basic questions, right? And that you do have to memorize, right? I mean, just because it's cybersecurity, um, uh, um, there are some basic questions that you need to know, and you need to memorize them, right? So the main one would be your OSI model, right? Would be your 7 layers of your OSI model. You need to memorize those, okay? You need to memorize. I mean, that's just common sense in cybersecurity. You have to have. Now, I don't know if you're going to use it, but you're going to answer. They're going to ask you this question in a lot of cyber interviews, right? So that's just basic common sense. When when you're in cybersecurity or IT or whatever the hell degree you have, you're going to have this put into your brain, right? Because that's your field. It's like me being in electrical field, and I don't know what Ohm's law is. That's just ridiculous, right? You need to know this, and you don't have to know it, like, what each layer. I mean, ultimately, you need to know what each layer does and how it functions, right? You do. But in an interview, for the interview purposes, they're just gonna want to know that you know of it, that the number 1 through 7, that and stuff like that. So you need to have that memorized, right? That's one, right? I would say another question that they would ask is, networking fundamentals. Other than that, like, they would ask, you need to have some kind of it depends on the job, right? But if you're an IT guy, you're gonna have to know your network fundamentals. You need to know how you would investigate, especially in cybersecurity. How would you investigate an attack, or how would you use a SIEM tool, and stuff like this, right? And so you need to have those basic questions memorized and answered in your mind, right? What's the first thing you would do if you were setting up a cybersecurity model or whatnot team in a small company or something, right? You got to think like this, like, what would you do? You'd set the framework, right? Would you start with the framework? Absolutely, because how are you going to do everything if you don't have a framework? I mean, I would say that's the top of that's like, and a lot of people will start with other things like authentication factors, right? And that's fine, and stuff. But when you're, so there's no right answer to this. You just need to have an answer for stuff like that, right? I would start with the framework. I would lay down what framework we're using for what kind of company we have, and then we need to find that, right? We need to say what kind of example or template we're going to use for what company we have. And there's different frameworks, and NIST and SANS and all this crap for what they do. There's government frameworks. There's capitalism frameworks. I mean, companies, private companies. There's corporate organization frameworks there's school frameworks. There's all kinds of different frameworks that work for different companies and different organizations. If I, instead, I should say, right? So, you need to know all that stuff, okay? And then like I said, remember all the questions that they're asking you for the jobs you're applying for, because it seems to me that you're applying for the same kind of jobs, right? So remember all the wrong answers, or the answers you didn't know, the exact answer for, and stuff like that, and you'll be all right when you get on that interview. So what else can I say? So I got a job, and I got basically what I wanted in the salary wise. I actually got more than I wanted. Okay, I got 10% more than I wanted that I was actually shooting for. I have a lot of years of experience too, right? So that I had to take that into factor, and but I don't have a lot of years of experience in cybersecurity. I have a lot of experience in the STEM field, right, or in the science area, and so that's kind of a hard one, right? But I still got what I wanted. Okay, I got a job where I think I can do fairly well in, because I know my stuff, and the challenge is still there, because the challenge of learning more and becoming way, way, way better in what I'm doing and understanding it way more is still always there. There's still a challenge, right? And eventually I can branch off into other stuff, and it gets more complicated, right, if I wanted to. So it's not daunting. This is not rocket science. Okay, it's cybersecurity is fun. Okay, frameworks and stuff like that is fun. um, you know all of cybersecurity, I would say, is fun, right? You got every sector, I would say, it's just fun, and it's interesting. It's live. Okay, you're constantly learning, you're constantly doing something, right? So um, just whatever you're learning in school, or however you're learning, have a passion for it, know your stuff, and then apply. Learn from the questions that you answered ruggedly. I'm sure you knew the answer somewhat. You didn't come off good when you answered it, and they wrote that down in their notes. Seemed like wasn't too confident about his answer. Said, after he answered, he said, "Am I right?" I did that. So I answered the question, and I wasn't too sure about it. I go, "It's right, right?" I actually did that. So I'm sure they wrote that down and was like, "No, yeah, it's right." And then he wasn't too confident about it. You can't do that stuff. Get all that stuff out of your system. That's another thing, okay? Get your references together. Get all your references together, because when you get that job, and you will, you're going to need your references. And you need to have that beforehand, at least 3. Okay, and then have your resume together. Now, your resume is very important too. Okay, I can't show you any examples and stuff, but because I'm not, everybody's got their own resume. The job I got it was off my old resume template that I've been using my whole life, and so I actually, between getting that job that I got and fixing my resume, I changed my resume like to a modern resume, where it had like a LinkedIn profile, on it, and all this stuff. And it was just, I love my resume. It's awesome. But I didn't get the job with that one, so I'm not going to show you that one. Because I can't tell you that resume got me the job. I don't know yet. I did get more interest. I did get interest as well with that new resume, but I lined up like 3 more interviews with that new resume, but I didn't get the job on that resume. So I'm not going to show you that, but you all need to watch other videos for your resumes and stuff. And there's a lot of videos out there for great resumes. My friend actually had a good resume. Like I said, I have never had a problem with my resume. I actually helped my friends fix their resumes and get a job, but that might be another video, But get all that stuff together, okay? Like I said, I'm gonna break this down one more time. You might not get the job right away. You're gonna do about 4 or 5 interviews, okay? Do those interviews, learn from them, answer your questions smoothly. The ones that you didn't know, immediately after you get off that interview, and you go, "Man, I didn't do too well." Remember those questions they asked you. Google them. Look in your books. Find really cool answers. Write them down, like on this word, write them down, and practice them. Practice saying them, and then get them smooth. And that way, when you go on the interview, you're saying them smoothly, like you never didn't know them, right? And that's what you're doing. Because in reality, you're prepping. You know those questions. You just weren't prepared. You got nervous. You didn't know how to say it as eloquent as you could have, and it just came out rusty, right? So it didn't seem like. And they write that down. They're taking notes. Okay. I'm gonna do step 5 right here. Okay. I'm gonna do step 5. One more step. 5 steps. Okay. Step 5. Um. Uh. Know the basic cyber knowledge. Okay? Know your basic cyber knowledge. Memorize. Oh man, I can't spell. Yeah. Anyways, memorize. So, like I said, know your basic knowledge. Know your OSI model. Okay? Number 1, need to know that. Your physical, your data link, network, transport, session, presentation, application. My secret to that was please do not throw sausage pizza away. That's how I remember that. Please do not throw sausage pizza away. That's physical, data link, network, transport, session, presentation, application. So I have that memorized. Now, going deeper into that, you should know how to go deeper into that, right? But I mean, I don't know if you don't need to memorize all that for an interview. I don't think. I never got asked more than what is the OSI model. Can you talk about the OSI model to me? You can go deeper into that if you want. If they ask you to talk about it, that would be great. No, that's networking though, right? You need to know. Another thing is, what is another one they always ask you? What are your cybersecurity sources? What do you use to keep up on cybersecurity? Now, I am going to tell you right now, if you're in cybersecurity, you are going to have those resources. You're gonna be interested in cybersecurity, or else why are you in this field, right? It doesn't make any sense. Especially cybersecurity, it's constantly evolving, and you need, it's just constant crime in your mind, crime. So, and how to prevent crime, right? And so, what are your sources? You need to know that question. Now, if you don't have an answer for that, because if you ask somebody, and this always happens. I've asked people in cybersecurity. I go, yeah, what do you do? What are you watching for cybersecurity? I don't know. Anything? I don't know. They don't have an answer because they're not keeping up on cybersecurity. They're just going to work and that's it. They got their degree and they're just going to work and that's it. And that's fine. But you need to have a good answer when they ask you that. That's one of the next basic questions they're going to ask you. How do you keep up on cybersecurity? My answer was SANS at Risk. I did a video on SANS at Risk. I love SANS at Risk. It has a forum. You can get on there. You can see what the new attacks are going on. Also, you can, if you want to get more technical, you want to impress them a little bit more, you can give them technical resources where you damn, I can't even think of it right now. But anyways, where they have the latest vulnerabilities, right? Websites. Google that. There's a bunch of websites to show you what the latest, government websites, every kind of website, show you the latest vulnerabilities of and malware, viruses, and all that stuff. I can't think of the site right now. Okay, my brain's not working. But there's a site where you can go on, and they keep you up to date on all the viruses and stuff. Anyways, that's some hacker stuff. So, I mean, you need to have some answer. I actually said, I follow a lot of people on YouTube. And I told them I had a YouTube channel too, but I said basically I follow a lot of people on YouTube as well. And Professor Messer, I follow is it Jack Snyder? God, I can't remember his name. Let me look it up. But anyways, the Darknet Diaries. Man, I love that show. I listen to that show all day. And what's funny is that is what you're supposed to be doing, because you want to know how they're going to how criminals exploit companies and how they do crime, right? That's your job. You're in cybersecurity. I don't care if you're working in frameworks and you never, have a chance to touch anything that has to do with what these criminals are doing. You need to listen to these stories, because this is how these people are taking advantage of companies. And in the long run, it's good to have that knowledge, right? You need to listen to these stories in like the Darknet Diaries. I'm telling you, man, there's some cool ass stories where they're talking about how hacker groups did this, how people did that, and it's the actual people who's interviewing, and they're telling you how they did it. I just listened to one story. This guy, he basically helped PewDiePie by hacking into printers, like 50,000 printers, and he was printing out, unsubscribe from so-and-so and subscribe to PewDiePie, because I guess they were battling with some kind of like company in India or something like that for like who was the top YouTube channel on YouTube. Anyways, really interesting story. This is the type of stuff that you need to understand, because what happened was he ultimately was exploiting open ports on IoT devices, right? And in this case, it was a printer. So, okay, so now if I'm in frameworks and I am part of setting up protocols and setting up the framework, when I get across that IoT equipment or part in the framework where it says, what do you do with printers and IoT devices? If I don't have a protocol in there in my company that says we need to make sure none of these ports are open that we're not using, okay, and there's nothing in there like that, I need to bring that up. That's my job. I'm in cybersecurity. I'm going to say, hey, we don't have any protocols for printers. Should I remind you of this story that I saw on YouTube? And this is actually what people are doing. This is how because they can exploit your open protocols on your IoT devices to get into your network. We all know that, using malware or whatever. We all know that, using scripts. We all know that. That's our job. Okay, so you need to have an answer for that. If you don't, you need to stop doing that. You need to have an answer for that. What do you do to keep up on current events in cybersecurity? You need to have an answer for that. And now, unless you're not taking your career field seriously, you need to take it seriously. If you don't take it seriously, that's on you. You know what I'm saying? Then I feel bad for the people you work for, and the companies that you're protecting them, because you're gonna miss something, okay? Because you're not keeping up on current events, right? And that's just common sense. That's my opinion, and it's true. Okay, so that's another common question they're going to ask you, and that's why they ask you that, because they want to know if you're real about your stuff, right? So get something, get a resource, and get involved, and watch stuff, and you're going to like it. What else is another question? So those are your basic questions. When you're doing your interviews, you're going to know which questions you're constantly asked. Those are the ones that those are your basic cyber knowledge questions you need to memorize and have ready. But yeah, so that's how to get a job. It's not hard. It is hard, but it's not daunting. And you need to go get this. You need to pay $100 to get this. Cyber resource. If you're a person that needs to do that, which I am sometimes too, then go ahead and do it. It's not a problem. Putting money in other people's pockets that are trying to make money and help you and give you a resource, and they do their research and they know their stuff, that's the part of they know what they know best. And they're giving it to you, but they're going to charge you. There's nothing wrong with that. You can't play or hate on that, right? Um, but you can do this on your own, right? You can do it on your own. You just need to have some common sense and some smarts when you're doing this stuff, and talk to people that have done it before, right? That's another thing. Seek the wisdom of the sages, right? Seek wisdom of the sages. Ask people that have done it before, um, and you'll get a job. Okay, you'll get a job that you want. Now, negotiating and all that, go look up some videos on how to negotiate and stuff like that. That's different. That's not what this video is about. This one is just to let you know that it's not going to be a daunting process. You're not going to need to buy any stuff that's going to prep you for it. If you want to, go ahead, but you're not going to need to. Okay. If you went to college and you got a degree in cybersecurity, I don't think you need to go and get certificates, CompT, and all that crap. You don't need to. They really don't care because you have a degree in cybersecurity. Now, before, there wasn't a lot of degrees in cybersecurity. So, like an IT degree is straight IT and computer and all that. They learn a tremendous amount about computers and their IT professionals and all that stuff. Most of them get their certifications in CompTIA and all that stuff too, and so they already have all that stuff. Okay, so when they graduate, but they don't have. So they might not have other areas, like digital forensics. Maybe they do. Who knows? Depending on your school, right? So they got to go and get other certificates, maybe to compensate, right? To compensate for what they didn't learn. But degrees that focus on, like my degree, cyber operations and resilience, I didn't need to go get certifications and all that, and I got a pretty good job because I knew my stuff, right? And that's the know what you know best. I knew my stuff. Even when they asked me a question I didn't really know, I did know. I just didn't know how to answer it right. I wasn't smooth enough. So and that's my advice. So if you guys have any questions or whatever, just know it's not hard to get a job in cybersecurity, especially when you follow all these steps. Step 1, step 2, 5. Follow those steps, you'll be all right, and learn from your mistakes. You should get a job quick. Okay, that's a lot of people make it seem like it's so hard, and you need to have all these technical answers and memorized, and you need to have like a whole booklet and take this and take that and right here, 5 steps. That's all you need. 5 steps. I wrote it right here on a Word program. There you go, free. I won't charge you guys nothing. Just watch my video. This should help you guys get a job. Honestly, I would no shit. I'm not playing with you. I'm not gonna charge you nothing. I'm doing this because I love cybersecurity. I love helping people, and I love people getting into cybersecurity. I want everybody to get into it. I want everybody to say, "Oh man, cybersecurity is where it's at. This is fun," and this would be my advice. Into getting interested into cybersecurity, staying up with the current events, and knowing what you know best. Stick with that. You're gonna be happier because you're gonna get some challenges anyways because you're not the best one all the time. And hey, yeah, I want to be a hacker because it's more exciting. HackTheFile is my channel and everything. I could do that on the side as a hobby, right? And that's what I do. I can learn to hack on the side as my hobby, and when I get really good and I know what I know the best on that area, I can go apply for another job. And then when I go for that interview, then they're gonna say, tell me about this. What would you do? I'm like, man, this is what I wouldn't even say what I do. I would say this is what I've done before. Oh, you have? Yeah, this is what I've done to hack into some stuff like that. This is what I've done. This is what I've done. And then that's the definition of knowing what you know best. And then I can move into that field. But at the moment, I don't know nothing. What I know best was like risk management and frameworks and and stuff like that. So that's the job I got. All right, so that was HackTheFile. I hope that I helped somebody today, and just know that it's not a daunting progress. All right, that's HackTheFile, and I'll see you next time. Have fun.